Good. Okay. All hooked up, recording. Let's begin. It's 6:30. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Town of Camden Select Board meeting for June 6, 2023. As normal procedure, we are live streaming on YouTube. That link can be found, of course, on YouTube under the Town of Camden. Also, we have a Zoom webinar link, which can be found on our agenda in our packet, that can be found on the Town of Camden website under the Select Board 2023 meetings. And you'll find the packet there in the agenda, and click on that. Again, for those who are attending via Zoom, please understand that we address and treat attendees just as we would anybody sitting here. Please raise your hand if you want to identify and talk, or otherwise, please don't use the chat function because we're not monitoring that. With that, before we call to order the agenda, I wanted to briefly discuss an annual event that the Town Select Board arranges every year. And specifically, I'm speaking to the town report. Every year, we print a town report with reports from all of our department heads and from our town manager, select board, and also a number of remembrances. But most importantly, we vote a month or so, 2 months ago, on a dedication. We want to announce tonight that dedication is directed at the Rotary Clubs of Camden. And we want to, maybe a little belatedly perhaps, but thank you so much for all they've done. With that, I would respectfully request that representatives here tonight from the Rotary Club, please come up here. The Rotary Clubs, I believe there are 3. I don't care how many, it's up to you guys.
Sandy, you can come up too.
Sorry.
Sandy, you can come up too.
Yeah. Please, we have representation, and perhaps you could introduce yourself when we could start this, and we all, the public can recognize you.
But can you organize yourself so we can?
Want it on the microphone?
If you're gonna say anything, we'll have to begin the.
Should we do the dedication?
No, you're gonna do
That's
that. So, Peter, why don't you start?
Good evening, Peter Lindquist. I am part of a small Rotary Club called the Satellite Rotary Club, part of West Bay. And we're just thrilled to be part of our community, contributing to making it better. And we do a lot of service, and so does the town. So we work together. This is Lisa Dresser.
I'm Lisa Dresser. I'm the current president of the West Bay Rotary Club, and thank you all for this honor. This is great, and it's nice to have Rotarians serving on the board of selection as well.
And I'm Judith Carbox. I'm the president of the Camden Rotary Club, and it's truly an honor to be recognized in the town report. I think that's a big time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy. John?
I'm Mark Berglund. I'm on the Satellite Club with Peter as well. Been there for 5 years since the inception of it. And it's great to be recognized in this level based on the amount of work I know that we put in as a total Rotary organization in this area, and the support from the town for us to be able to facilitate a lot of those things. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sandy Cox. I'm the Assistant District Governor for Area 10, which is Belfast, Rockland, Camden, West Bay. And again, thank you for the recognition. We certainly appreciate it.
Welcome. With that, by the way, we'll give you this is the town report. And by the way, it's available to the public. It's we have rules of them in the town office, so please pick one up. And very informative. But with that, before we go any further, I wanted to have Allison, if you would mind reading the dedication that has been written in this for the public that's present in this document.
Sure. The dedication of the annual report ordinarily honors the service of an individual resident, but this year we would like to recognize the outstanding contributions of many of them through an organization whose members have collectively, over nearly a century, provided invaluable service and support to the town of Camden and our neighboring communities. We are speaking, of course, of our local Rotary clubs, of which there are three: the Camden Rotary Club, the West Bay Rotary Club, and the Satellite of West Bay Rotary. United under the common motto of service above self, the clubs are divided only by their preference for the time of day to hold their meetings. With so many residents and friends of Camden who are motivated by the call to serve, it's no surprise that Camden boasts Rotary clubs for every meal of the day. Collectively, they have raised and distributed hundreds of thousands of dollars to community organizations, scholarship programs, international exchanges, and education. Perhaps just as importantly, they have fostered community spirit, civic values, and a commitment to lifelong learning that extends far beyond the club's membership. The Camden Rotary Club began its weekly Tuesday luncheon meetings at the Camden YMCA almost 100 years ago, at a time when the town was experiencing rapid change. As the historically industrial Camden sought to establish itself as an attractive place for new residents and vacationers, many prominent residents recognized that the future of the town would depend on the civic mindedness of its residents. On April 9th, 1925, the editors of the Camden Herald proclaimed that Camden is surely going ahead these days. So far this year, it has taken on the town manager form of government, the first town in the state to do so. It has voted to spend $80,000 for its schools and will soon have a new school building too. If not better than equal to, if not better than any other town of its size in the state. The latest step, which is a sign of progress, not only in civic affairs, but also in the business world, took place last Friday night when a Rotary Club was formed and the town took its place in an organization that is not only national, but international. While much has changed in our town and the local Rotary Club since 1925, our community success still depends on citizens adopting the Rotarian motto of service above self in its many forms. Rotarians describe their clubs as a global network of 1.4 million neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. The then novel idea of the town manager form of government has now been adopted by most towns in the state, but volunteers continue to play an integral role in all that we do in town. The school building referred to in the editorial served for many years as our middle school and recently underwent an impressive renovation to house the Zenith Alternative Education Program for the high school and the administrative offices for the 5-town school district. Reverend Ralph Hayden, who chaired the building committee for both this new school and the Camden Public Library, was also a Rotarian. This is but one example in a long history of Rotarians turning their commitment to service into action for the benefit of our town. The Camden Rotary Club grew steadily in its early years and took on numerous causes ranging from bicycle safety to small loans for university students who ran out of money before completing their degree. This initiative blossomed into an extensive scholarship program which provides support for students in the 5-town school district, as well as support for residents of all ages pursuing technology education. The acts of service over many years are too numerous to catalog, but it is worth mentioning a few more. Their members strive weekly for Meals on Wheels, distribute holiday food baskets for families in need, participate in the Earth Day spring roadside cleanups, organize events like Music by the Sea over the 4th of July, and have donated to countless organizations and initiatives ranging from affordable housing programs to the Camden Snowball. The Camden Rotary Club still meets weekly at noon on Tuesdays, just as they always have, but the location has moved to the Congregational Church. An option of attending virtually over Zoom is also available, and members of the public have an open invitation to attend and listen to the weekly speakers on a variety of important topics. In 1986, Camden's second Rotary Club was born. The Camden Rotary Club had grown to over 100, and by some accounts, it struggled to accommodate the needs of all its members, especially those who felt the club was a little too large and meetings a little too long. The West Bay, as reported in the Camden Herald. The West Bay Rotary Club was formed with the same focus on service, but organized as a breakfast club. Over the years, they too have helped many students further their education, as well as volunteered monthly for Habitat for Humanity, repainted the toboggan chute countless times, and raised many thousands of dollars for local charities through annual Christmas tree sales, the Duck Derby, and e-waste collection. Another significant event came in 1987 when a Supreme Court decision ruled that Rotary International could no longer prevent women from being invited to join local clubs. Both West Bay and Camden Rotary clubs embraced the new opportunity, and membership again grew, benefiting the town with more and more community members who put themselves in the habit of thinking about things in a civic-minded way. Rotary suffers from the same difficulty as municipal government in trying to settle on a meeting time that works best for everyone. The newest addition to the Rotary landscape is the satellite of West Bay Rotary, which operates under the larger West Bay Club. They meet twice monthly at Flatbread Pizza at 5:15. They participate in many of the same projects as the other two clubs, such as Habitat for Humanity, Partners for World Health, and roadside cleanups. The group also took on a full rehabilitation of the bathroom house at Lake Beach, among many other things. A 1925 editorial in the Camden Herald entitled "Why Rotary" has been dug up from the archives every 25 years or so and reprinted for its continued relevance. We will quote it here as well. Men who know Rotary say that the Rotary Club is a sort of storage battery of energy that sends its members forth into their business activity, their social and home life with a desire to put the high standards of Rotary service into immediate and result-getting action. Rotary has come to the rescue in community matters and on so many occasions with their battery pack of volunteers and goodwill. We are grateful for the innumerable contributions that our local Rotary clubs have made to the town of Camden in these first 100 years. Not only has the support come in the form of tangible works undertaken by your members, but also in the invaluable work of arousing the civic consciousness of the larger community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Peter, can I have you guys stand up here again? Okay, Peter? Can I just get one good pose?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much, Peter, all you've done. All we do.
Since we're in the chapter of dedications, we have another one.
Oh, shit.
So. So Bob, this is a small token of our appreciation of all the work you've done for the town the past 6 years on the select board, countless hours you've spent here working with us, members of the select board, present and past, working with Audra and Bill and Janice and Jeremy and Dave and everyone in the town office. And we wish you a happy retirement. Some of us are not exactly excited about this retirement, but thank you so much. Don't be a stranger, come back, and I'm sure that we will keep on calling on you for your expertise. And just one last piece of advice, don't drink it all on the same night.
Okay, like tonight, you mean?
Exactly. But thank you very much for everything, Bob.
Very welcome. It's been a real trip. I've enjoyed it. It's always good and bad and ugly of everything in life, but it's been more good and no ugly, honestly. But the best part of it from my reflection is the people I met, the people of Camden I didn't know before this as well as I do now. And that's going to be with me for whatever days I have left. But let me check out what this is. So maybe I'm drinking.
And see your book.
What?
He's emptying her. Yeah, I'm not really good at wrapping.
Great job. I'm trying to figure out unwrapping. It's more difficult than it's taking time. Sorry to take your time with this. It's a 6-pack of wines, some of the great ones too.
Of Italian wines that we know you like.
You're right. Thank you so much. It's been a real trip, like I said, and a pleasure. I'll miss all. Well, I actually won't, because I'm gonna be around.
You're gonna be around. But thank you very much.
Okay, no more announcements, please.
No.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the agenda, but before we do, I want to make a couple of revisions with the board's permission. One is I've had a request to, I think, get this in order, remove one item from the consent agenda and put it on the agenda. That's the application for telephone pole across Ave. So I will do that.
Okay,
The other one is item 5, action item 5B, which is the transfer of Lazy Jack day sale license. I would propose that we table that item because we would suggest we get the input from the Harbor Committee on this unique situation of the transfer, hopefully is of ownership and use in the town. And 3 would be I want to move item 5E, which is the proposal for the Maguntacook Water Association water quality monitoring. Just move it up on the agenda to be the first item on the action items list. So unless there are any objections, we will move into the agenda, which is first and always public comments on non-agenda items. Does anybody here would like to make a comment that something is not on the agenda? You're not doing this out of respect for me, are you? Yeah, thank you so much. I think you're gonna miss that part.
you're gonna come, exactly.
I'll be,
Maybe I would
Involved to participate.
well, I could be more of an antagonist. But anyway, let's move on to the second item on our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from May 2nd and May 16th. May 2nd. Any comments, changes, a motion?
Make a motion that we approve.
A second,
Motion made in second. All those in favor? It would be 401 because I was not in attendance. The next time will be May 16th, please.
Make a motion that we approve.
second,
Any discussion? All those in favor? Tom, so it's 401 again. Thanks, Tom, for reminding me. That's the end of the approvals for that. And now on to public hearings. We have, I believe, 6. We have applications of 6 entities. And just as a information for my benefit, is anybody here that's going to look in the public hearing portion of these licenses what wants to talk to the license? I ask that because it helps me to manage the process. If there's not, I will, if anybody's forgotten, please raise your hand. But because the purpose of public hearing is for the select board to solicit information from the public on the matter at hand. The license for the usually liquor license. If you did want to say something, please raise your hand and I will have you come up here, identify yourselves, please speak. Please keep it brief, succinct to the point, whether you're for or against, or just want to speak to the item. When all of the public input is complete on that agenda item, I will close the public hearing portion and revert to the deliberation decision by the select. So the first is the application of Brevetto LLC doing business as 40 Paper at 40 Washington Street for renewal of a Class A restaurant liquor license. There's nobody here to speak to that, so I'll close the public hearing portion and revert to the select.
I move that we approve the application by Brevetto LLC for a liquor license.
second,
Discussion, those in favor, 5-0. And given that there's probably liberty here, I'm going to take the next 5 as a block and I'll read them. Application of Barron's Restaurant at 2 Wayfair Drive for renewal Class A restaurant lounge liquor license. Application to Camden Deli at 37 Main Street for the renewal of Class 1 restaurant liquor license. Application of Captain Swift Inn at 73 Elm Street for a renewal Class 5 bed and breakfast liquor license. Application of Salt Wharf at 3 Wayfarer Drive for renewal Class A restaurant / lounge liquor license. And lastly, application of Camden Windward House at 6 High Street for renewal Class 5 bed and breakfast liquor license.
I move that we approve all of those liquor licenses.
second,
Motion made and seconded for discussion. All those in favor? 5-0. On the consent agenda, there was 2 items tonight. One is the renewal of Vittler Lodging Establishment licenses for Camden Deli, Captain Swift Inn, Lyman Morse Crew Orders, Norumbega Inn, Scott's Place, and Timbercliff Cottage Bed and Breakfast. The second item, taxi cab operator driver's license for Ellen Curtis. Are there any objections to those 2 items on the consent agenda?
No.
Not hearing any, they are hereby adopted. And that's the end of the consent agenda now, because of my revision early on, we have insert another, what?
But usually Chris Wolf is
Oh,
here.
yeah, yes.
He always
I'm sorry.
comes
Yeah.
for the
Chris,
license
did you
for
want to say anything
driver, so
about Wolfie?
I just wanted to introduce the driver to you.
that would be great.
Oh, sure,
Can we do
yeah,
that?
absolutely can do it. I meant to do that after. Thank you, Sophie. Come on up, Kate.
This is because I hate that I'm public speaking anyhow, and I'm at school all day.
Don't feel bad, I don't mean it.
Thank you, Tommy.
I'm Ellen Curtis.
Members of the board, Chris Wolf, 47 Star Road, Wolfie's Wheels. Another application for another driver for the taxi cab. So, Ellen Curtis, she teaches at the middle school. And any questions you have?
Elementary school, right?
Or middle school, sorry.
Good. Looking forward to having.
29 years.
Are you gonna do that just for the summer or year round, not just for the summer?
Summer, maybe we can.
Summer, maybe weekends.
Great.
And are your bookings picking up because of summer?
Tremendous.
We're deep.
I could use more. We just have terrible luck with drivers for some reason. I don't know. So you'll probably see me every meeting.
That's fine.
Well, you're welcome.
You're welcome to
But
go.
I feel it's important the select board needs to do.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. We welcome and
Thank
good luck and stay with it.
Thank you. I'll try.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Sophie. And the new agenda item is the application for a telephone pole at Rossin Ave. Audra, any intro here?
Yes, so this is part of the Rossin Ave Bridge project. So as part of MDOT's, any project that they have, they need to do coordination with the utilities, which includes anytime poles or lines need to be moved because of a
Right,
project. So this really is just going to make the removal of the bridge easier because it's taking a line that currently goes, I think, diagonal over the bridge and will make it run perpendicular to the bridge. So it'll be easier for the removal process and the installation of the new bridge.
Have we seen that bridge plan yet?
We haven't because we're the ones who are doing the new bridge design. So MDOT is responsible for the removal. So we have the plans for, what it's going to look like once it's removed and restored. And then we need to come in and do our part to install the new bridge, and our engineers working on that right now.
Is this existing pole in the way of removal?
I believe so. That's why MDOT is asking for the old pole to be removed and the new one to be located in a different area.
Alice, go ahead.
So I'm looking at that with a couple of the neighbors, it seems like, to talk to the DOT people or the CMP people or somebody, it seems like part of that is that it's the wire over top and they need to use cranes to remove the bridge, and so it's the way the wire is, but my understanding was there was going to be some conversation about the way the tree could be pruned and how that was all going to happen. It seems like maybe there's a resolution in place, and but is there any way to condition this on like approval from the town tree warden? Or my understanding was the residents there that were concerned were going to be talking to maybe Doug Johnson and
They
maybe
spoke
Dave
with,
St. Laurent
they
too.
spoke with Dave St. Laurent today, who's the tree warden, and he's addressed their concerns from what I understand with the pruning.
Did Doug Johnson go over there?
I don't know if Doug went. I know that Dave spoke to him. That's the extent of it.
Sophie,
And do we know where the new pole is gonna go?
yeah, it's in the drawing.
Yes.
Well, I see the drawing, but
Don't know what that is.
it's a drawing, there's.
It's true.
It's kind of hard to understand. I mean, I see the drawing, I see
It's
where the
very
new pole is gonna be. The question I have is, very often we hear comments of people with scooters or wheelchairs that they cannot navigate a very narrow sidewalks. So are we, in this new design, are we taking this into account?
We don't have any sidewalk on this.
Really?
Mm.
Tells you how often I go there. All right, so I guess my question is moved.
Okay,
Well, I do have a comment.
Yeah.
So I did go over there today and it looked like there's going to be significant pruning on the opposite side of the bridge that's already there. So there's already one big tree on the opposite side of where I think where they want to place the tree. So the
Oh, I was gonna say,
so I'm
don't
sorry.
confuse me.
So the whole entire side that they want to put the line in the pole, it's going to demolish that entire tree canopy right there that goes across the entire bridge. It's going to, it's going to take it way back. I feel like it's kind of counterintuitive to our whole tree initiative. And I have concerns about how close the pole is going to be to the river and just all of the whole dynamics of the whole thing. I don't really feel like we have enough that was given to us or really anybody here to explain it a little bit better for me to make a informed decision on whether I want to go ahead with saying yes.
Stephanie,
To the pole.
to your point is, do we know if this is an alley pole or not?
A what pole?
Alley poles one-sided, it's not
This is a class 3 40-foot pole.
T,
Right.
and it's electrical.
No, it's a single phase wire up there, but
What
it's,
there is?
but it's a significant pole, class 3.
Oh, no, I know, I was just wondering if the alley pole, it's something by the way, can't answer that here to your point, but an alley pole hangs on one side of the pole only, takes it away from trees usually, but I don't know if that can apply here or not, that's something we could consider.
Yeah, we just don't know that. That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know.
We just don't, I just don't feel like
I
we
don't.
have enough information to make sure that the initiatives that we're already trying to put in place around town are gonna be honored by doing this, by what we're being given.
Mhm.
And I'll add to that, we don't have a plan here. So if there was a plan where we could actually see and why this change needs to be made, I'd be for it. I do work a lot with the DOT, I set poles myself,
Mhm.
and I know that there's more to it that could be presented if they need to move this. There's more information that we could have before us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe we get a little bit more and just suggest looking at, does this one pole? But it's only one pole being added and then it's gonna connect with something across the bridge, so that's
Right.
what's happening.
Well, currently the line goes diagonally from
Oh.
one side of the bridge to the other.
Oh,
This is moving the pole,
To the
so the
other side.
line goes perpendicular to the bridge so that they can remove the bridge
yeah,
and then put the new bridge in.
got it.
Right.
I would suggest that maybe take a look at an alley pole, that'll take you up,
I mean, this isn't our, we can't decide
okay.
on an alley pole, that's not our.
What suggested, that was the word I used.
We're just being asked if we want to be able to move the pole, and I understand that a nuisance of having to work around things
Mhm.
is just that, a nuisance. So it makes sense that the easy solution would be, well, let's just move the pole. But I feel like we have so many other things going on in town that we're trying to promote. I'm not really sure that this does that for us, and I'm not really quite sure how much of a nuisance it is to remove the bridge. Having the pole stay where it is.
Can you keep it diagonal?
Yeah,
I don't know.
and keep it right.
I
I just don't know.
I have no idea. We need to be specific, I'm sorry, go ahead, Allison.
So it seems like most of the time that anything that has to do with the street trees, or maybe, I don't know if this officially counts as a street tree or not, but all of that goes through this tree warden process, even significant pruning. So if we're to, I understand you're saying that, oh, that's all been worked out, but would there be a way just to condition it on approval from the tree warden?
I don't think so.
No, because they're,
Well, then let's bring it back if they're that big of a hurry.
I don't know, we can,
They're not gonna remove it next week anyway, probably.
no, they're not, this is all just part of their
Understood.
process for what they need to.
yeah,
do that.
I think just express the concern of the board with the issue of the tree, and I don't even know which tree you're talking about, but if there are ways they can work around that by placement of the pole, type of pole, they know that, they do it all the time. Those poles we used over by Flatbread Pizza for exactly that reason. And they're proposed to a route north that's ever built, because it saves some trees. Hey, let's get more information out there, please. All right, with that, we'll move on to our list of action items, the first of which, for my revision, will be the proposal from the Moventucket Watershed Association for water quality monitoring. Is there someone here? who wants to speak to it? Oh, there he is. I knew you were there somewhere.
Right in the back. Good evening, Tim Trumbauer, 6 Stony Hill, Road Rockport, and I'm here with Forrest Bell, that the environmental.
Good to see everybody.
You too.
Yeah, so this is kind of a proposal to continue some of the monitoring work that we as an organization are already doing. We're currently through Lake Storage of Maine program monitoring 3 stations, 2 in the Gunnock Lake and then 1 in Northern Pond. And then additionally, we're doing bacteria monitoring for E. coli at 7 different locations throughout the watershed. So kind of a gap in that monitoring currently is the river. So what we would like to do is start monitoring water quality levels in the river at 7 specific locations using these HOBO onset data loggers that produce continuous data. So that's task 1 that's before you. And then we have an additional task, which is task 2, which is actually looking specifically at the water levels of various impoundments on the river. So McGonagall Lake, the Seabright section, and then the impoundment behind Montgomery Dam. Because during the high water event that we had last month, it became apparent there's really not a lot of historic data in regards to what the water levels are in reaction to any given event and throughout time. So we got a lot of anecdotal stories about folks talking about back when 20 years ago the water level was this high after this storm, and the person across the shore said, well, we remember it was this level, and so there's a lot of disagreement. So we feel like it would be really beneficial to actually be generate some real data. And the proposal that we have is to install these meters that actually have solar power batteries to them, and it would come with a data plan. So it would be broadcasting the water level data in real time every 30 minutes, and we'd host that or at least link to it through our website.
Allison.
Would you consider monitor, or maybe you're already doing this or planning to, monitoring rainfall in a few different locations in the watershed too, to be able to compare? It'd be interesting to see, okay, we got this amount of rain in 6 hours or however many hours, and this was the level we saw the lake go up or down.
Yeah, so we would definitely consider that. We could install rain gauges. That's not a part of this proposal, but something that we could do. There is the NOAA has a precipitation center where they have measurements in Rockport, and they kind of do some verification with I forget the technical terminology, but they have, I think, a weather station. They also look at radar, and they can kind of come up with a resolution of where rainfall has fallen in the 24-hour period. So that's another thing. Actually, I use that to do some calculations and get some information during the rain event that we had last month. So that could be another source that's publicly available and exists.
Yeah.
That can kind of give us an approximation of that without having to install extra equipment.
I just want to add something really quick.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add quickly for the select board's benefit. This is sort of a natural continuation, progression of the work you funded FB Environmental to start last year. I think it was July of 2022. So just wanted to make the connection, and we were really excited when Tim was hired with a water quality background. And so this will really help with the long-term sustainability of doing this monitoring, which has limited value for a year or two, but has tremendous value if it's carried out long-term. So you can really see the trends of the river and the lake through drought periods, wet periods, things of that sort. So that's what this type of monitoring will do.
And we'll be reusing the data loggers that we invested in last year, correct? We're not buying any new equipment, or a little bit.
For task 1, which is looking at specifically dissolved oxygen, temperature, and conductivity, we would be reusing those, proposing to reuse the data loggers that you have. For the water quality, the water level monitoring, that would actually be purchasing 3 new water level monitors and the solar battery packs to go along with it. But that would be a one-time cost, and then we would kind of maintain them, for as long as they exist. and make that data available.
And then you can come and educate us about dissolved oxygen levels in the river and what it means in terms of health of the river and why we're so interested in measuring those data points.
Well,
That's exactly right. Yeah, we-
Should be doing the oxygen levels, so they should be the ones telling us, right? He's just doing the pollutants.
Well, so we would be looking at temperature, dissolved oxygen, and connectivity. So that's kind of a very basic, environmental monitoring suite.
Right.
And that's
But I
kind of,
thought that that's what FB Environmental was doing right now with the equipment that we purchased last
year.
fall.
Right. They were.
So yeah, I can clarify that. Yeah, so we started the work last summer. And this proposal is for the Watershed Association to continue this work
Okay,
instead of us.
so my other question then is, I'm trying to put it in order here. So last fall, we put $54,000 into the labor and equipment to monitor the oxygen level. So now you're saying that you want to put that over to the Watershed Association.
Yeah, I think I can clarify. So the proposal that you funded last year was to purchase the equipment, which is done, so that they would be using the same equipment.
Right.
That was purchased by the town. It was to start the monitoring, which we did last year, but it was just for last year. It wasn't, to be continued into 2023. And a big part of that project was to develop a quality assurance project plan for the state of Maine in order to have all the data be validated once it's collected. So that was a big piece of that project, and that is done, and the state of Maine has signed off on that project. So the data collected by the association, if it's approved, will fall under that quality assurance project plan. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, because the push last year was to have a full year worth of logs. So now you're just telling me that it was just because we didn't even start doing the logs till September. So $39,000 worth of labor was 3 months worth of work that FB Environmental did for.
A lot of it. So we did a full year, which included installing all the loggers, which is a big chunk of that labor. I don't have the breakout in my head, but I can tell you that a lot of the labor in that contract was developing the quality assurance project plan. It's a big undertaking. It's a huge document. It has to follow very specific protocol. So, I mean, it's certainly information we could provide if needed, but that's where a lot of it went.
Okay, so then after all of that, now we're going to do, the request is to do, just $8,200 for the rest of this year to do the same type of water quality that cost us $34,000 for 3 months last year. So how are you getting paid for your time to do this?
me personally,
Yeah.
so in this request is broken out by item. So I have about 100 hours of my time is built into this proposal. So, there are a lot of efficiencies having the quality assurance project plan completed. I would never have the time to do that myself. So now that's done, that's kind of a big chunk of the work out of the way. So I can just come and basically operate off of that quad and go out, set the loggers out, get trained. I've done similar work. I haven't used specific equipment yet, but I've done very similar work in the past. So I'm, perfectly comfortable with my competence to do it. And then basically go out and start collecting the data and operating that plan. So it's a lot more efficient now that everything's been set up.
And when I spoke to the select board last year, I made it clear that there would need to be a good long-term solution to provide value to the town of Camden in future years. So this is that natural progression.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of confused that we haven't had an update if it was that big of a step to get to this point. We haven't heard anything, haven't had any updates. So that's why I'm just asking, trying to get clarification, because we have, I don't
Mhm.
even know where I would go to get
Sure.
the
sure.
information for the water
We
quality.
provided an update at the end of last season to the Citizens Advisory Committee. That video is online with all the details and the data that was collected. The quality assurance project plan was just signed, I think, by 2 weeks ago or so. So that's a very new document, and that's available. You can see what's in there. There's a lot there.
Allison, you have a question?
Yes, let me just,
Mhm.
it always seemed, it seemed as though it was gonna be unsustainable. The cost of it was if FB were going to set it all up for us and do the whole thing, but then if you looked at the price tag before that was discussed to have them continue to do everything, it was gonna be a lot more expensive. And so the idea, I would assume, is the Watershed Association for all these years has been doing this water quality monitoring, but they haven't had in the past the equipment to do some of the higher level stuff that I know at least certain directors of that organization have been interested in. So to me, it seems like we're fortunate here that the Watershed Association just hired somebody that has the expertise to do this, and they're willing to take it on as their project. It's not, and we would be signing a contract with or an agreement with the Watershed Association, not with the person, right, Sam Morgan.
Correct.
So it's the organization taking it on,
Correct.
and then sort of, did you guys discuss this with the board
Yep.
there at all? So the idea is that it's gonna be a continued monitoring program, is that?
As long as funding allows, yeah, we feel it's directly in line with our mission, and which I included in the proposal. And we really want to use scientific monitoring as the kind of the basis of our work. So I think it's really important. So yeah, we are, again, to the extent that we have the resources to do this, we're committed to collecting this data as long as we possibly can. And we'd like it to be kind of an annual plan where we're collecting this data, producing an annual report. In previous organizations, I've done a report card, water quality report card that kind of can be a really good communication tool to communicate to folks, the health of the watershed. So I just think that would be a really valuable thing for the community, and really something that's very well aligned with the mission of the New York Watershed Association.
We have this very long relationship with contracting with the Watershed Association to do everything from, having a lake warden to all kinds of different things. So to me, I feel much better, or I feel really good about any kind of proposal that's going forward with the, endorsement and support of the board there and the members and having more people involved.
Other comments?
Thank you. Tim, I want to ask about continuing costs. So I see that you have a well outlined budget here. And some of this is collection. So this covers us for 2023?
Yes, through the end of the season
Okay, through the end of
of the year. Yeah.
November,
Calendar.
December, whenever you can not stand the water temperature any longer. And the durability of the equipment, any projections on that, when?
So I think it's warranted and it's fairly durable. I think you've got more experience with it. I mean, things happen, right? That's in a watershed, it's out in nature. Part of what I would be doing would be maintaining it. So that would maintain the life of it. It's foreseeable that something might happen to one of the pieces of the equipment, but we're expecting it to be in service for several years.
5 to 10 years is what we've looked at for these type of hobo data loggers that we've worked with. They're high quality.
And if something were to happen to one of them, is that something where you come back to the town and ask us to replace it? And then anticipating 2024 costs, because what I heard you say, Forrest, was we need to carry on with that.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah, I think I would ask multiple sources to help on that. If the town would be willing to do that, if we did have an issue, that would be great.
Okay. Also, last question, we share the McGuntacook watershed with a few other communities. Has anything been approached to those communities?
No, but I certainly would, especially in Lincolnville and Vermont. I think that the evidence, anecdotal evidence we received regarding the last high water event was that the level may have been higher in Norton Pond. And certainly when I went there to the Narrows and the Bailey Bridge there, you can see that the water was actively flowing through there. So I do think that's a pinch point, and it would be great to have a data point in Norton Pond as well. I have not been to one of their Lakes and Ponds committee meetings yet, because it hasn't worked out with my schedule. But I will be going as soon as I'm available, and I'd love to talk to them about that as well.
And Hope does share some frontage
Yes.
on the watershed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thinking with the water levels though is because that's the lake. If we have one lake, that's kind of a bare minimum, and that would cover the lake. There might be some wind shifts and things like that that might have a very minute impact on water levels in the lake. Pretty much McGonagall Lake is gonna be, one water level lower there is gonna give us a pretty accurate reading for that entire area, including the Hope Shore Front and the Hope area.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Stephanie.
I do. So, as far as, so before I was just talking about the water quality, trying to understand that whole process to get us to where we're at. Now I'm going to the level monitoring. The, discussion in the last meeting was that we needed to look at the policy. And, we had discussed that the conversation would be had to bring back the dam advisory committee. As it states in the policy, they are supposed to be, have a voice. Where is that conversation at this point, since we're at this level?
Well, I would say, I guess, first of all, that, good data drives good policy, so I think that these two things are related, so I think it's great. This would help inform any policies that were made. And where that discussion lies now is, I think, kind of with you all and what you want to do. The organization, speaking on behalf of our board, is we're willing to participate. We would like to get input from the community and so recommend that there's a really good kind of diverse set of stakeholders that have input into that process, from Lincolnville and Hope and commercial interests and all the folks that use the watershed. I mean, there are a lot of different people and a lot of different potential impacts and things like that we want to consider all of those and make recommendations to update that policy. But I think that this proposal would help with that because you actually have the data, producing data to help inform, the management operation of the dams.
I was actually hoping that you were just gonna say that the dam management person had helped you to form this, and that there would be more information about the policy, because yes, we do need a level monitoring, but we also have a policy that is very outdated, and that's where the start of this conversation and why I wanted to bring you in, bring Audra into this situation, Dave St. Laurent as the dam management is, that's where this conversation started, is we have a level problem right now. And our policy is completely outdated. I mean, you have to pick and choose which part of it you're going to follow because it's that outdated. You're supposed to, the dam manager is supposed to consult with the dam advisory committee that was disbanded or not functioning right now since COVID. So it's been multiple years. And so now to have this placed in front of us, I was really hoping that the conversation that you're bringing to us stemmed from that healthy conversation from our management team. But it sounds like the watershed is the one stepping up saying, we want to help you.
No,
which is great, but that doesn't leave us any further right now. Looking at the water level, saying, what are we gonna do? Because the policy is completely outdated.
I think we want to get back to the core issue here, which is basically the monitoring. That's what we're talking about here. And I agree with everything you said, Stephanie, but right now, I've heard comments from everybody, and it's time to make a decision on whether we want this proposal to be accepted or not. So.
Can I just say one thing about the email list that I think can anybody be on the Connecticut Watershed Association email distribution list, or do you have to be on order?
I think anyone can be on the email list. We do have separate, certain communications that just go to members, but anyone can sign up.
I think I was in a meeting the other day and somebody said, oh, I'm on the list and I'm not a member, but they send out really good stuff. And one of the things that came out recently was, and it was great because I got the information from the Watershed Association, not from the town, which is fine. Obviously, there have been some communication in the background, but they are now monitoring or recording and reporting the levels on Sometimes it's daily, sometimes not daily, but for all 4 town-owned dams, it goes on this site, and then Tim linked to it in the newsletter that went out to all the members. So, I mean, I saw that as a great example of like, oh, great, the Watershed Association has better communication skills than the town, and, I mean.
Yeah.
Which is true,
But I mean, I think it's a starting point. I mean, once we, as you say, good data helps build good policy. So I think it's great that we start by measuring those levels and have real data, because right now, as you said, it's everybody's guesses. So I think personally, I think we should approve this.
Well, somebody make a motion.
I'm making a motion that we approve the Watershed Association proposal to monitor the water quality of the watershed, and to start monitoring the level of the watershed levels. And that we approve a budget of $8,200, is that correct? 18.
Before we.
1,800,
Well,
$18,200.
Do I get a second on this motion?
second.
Okay, motion made second. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. I would just like to say, I'm gonna support this, but for 2024, I would like to see the other communities and other stakeholders come into this discussion.
Other discussion?
Yeah, I was wondering, since this started with the very beginning of the whole water, started with the FB environmental and the dam. I know I'm taking a long time, I'm sorry, but could this be funded this year or until the river study is done by the grant funding?
No,
The water quality couldn't be
no.
put into that this time, but at the beginning of the project, it could.
It can count as a match, which isn't actually really needed at this point, but for the purposes of the grant, they don't require rigorous water quality monitoring. So basically, it's just that the scope of the grant and what's gonna be, where the money is gonna be used has been established. But this is something above and beyond that's really a response, I think, to what the community is asking for, which is better data, more information. And this is the response to that. So it's not something that would be needed.
The first project wasn't funded by the grant.
It was a match.
Right.
It counts for the match.
Where will this funding come from? It's not just some big net, but where we're taking budget from.
Professional services.
Thank you. Thank you. General fund.
The dam reserve?
No,
No.
Why, well, I mean, I think it could,
it could, but
we don't think it should.
It's not that much money to really debate it, to the truth.
But we should throw it on a funding source also.
Yeah, sure.
So Audra is proposing professional services.
I just find that professional services budget often seems like it's finite and it's needed for things like at the Snow Bowl, and
What do you recommend?
this is not a hill I'm gonna die on. I would just think it's a damn thing. I like funding. But I guess it's a water quality,
It's
water thing too.
So maybe for this fiscal year, we could propose,
Contingency.
well,
I mean, that is a perfectly good use of select board contingency.
Contingency.
I agree.
I mean, it really is. It's a need that has been brought to our attention, that we're responding to, that we're deciding what to do with.
I agree with you. So I'm modifying my motion that we approve the proposal from the Watershed Association to do those 2 tasks, the water quality monitoring and the water level monitoring, and that we fund $18,200 from the select board contingency.
You agree with that? Second.
I do, because theoretically, our professional services budget is developed because of things that we're planning on spending on.
Can you second that?
Yes, I see.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? 4-1. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Forrest.
Safe drive for us.
I do just want to state as a fact that this conversation started because we were discussing that the policy that we currently have on the books for water.
Talking about the ordinance.
Nope, the policy for maintaining the dam at the lake
Okay.
is severely outdated.
Mhm.
That's why we wanted to partner, have more heavily with the watershed and to bring, the conversation was the dam advisory committee. So I don't want that to die because we're still.
So I was gonna do this as part of my management update, but Tim and I had a meeting where we discussed both things. And this is one of the things that came out of that meeting, but the other sort of parallel track to this is that, you know, he's working in the background to across the watershed, because that's not something that I can as easily do as him. He's got a organization that is set up just for that purpose, to come up with, you know, recommendations and try to get a group together to do that, that will participate in as well. You know, we also need to figure out what do we want to do with the dam advisory committee, because that was also set up and structured at a different time where it had a different sort of function than what I think that would be useful for it today. So those are two different things that we need to talk about in the future. And I was going to bring that up as part of my management report, but I think it's important.
Thank you.
Just
Well, let's
We did meet with the Lincolnville Select Board and during that meeting, discussed the need for that to
I'm sorry,
evolve.
Alison, can we have just one conversation at a time too? I can hear you from here. It's very hard for me to focus on one conversation when I have background noise in my ears. So I encourage you to speak with Tim, but if you can give us the space to have our conversation, I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's just, we did meet with the Lincolnville Select Board and we did talk about this. And one of the things discussed was that most of the people that had been involved at the time where we came up with the dam advisory committee and all of that, they weren't, like, none of us that were in the room now were there then when that system was imagined, and that the system of that specific committee needed to evolve as well. So that was part of the discussion with that board. So we had a joint. I can't remember
Just
who's here for that.
closing it down is not the way to handle.
We're
not.
This
Yeah,
is
more committees than ever.
this is subject of a future agenda, please. I don't see anything that we just approved that's going to change to something that's going to continue, and I agree with you. So,
No, I think it's a starting point.
yeah, so let's,
Again,
we have to move on. We've got a bunch of agenda stuff yet to go, so let's move on to the next item, which was originally the first on the action list, which is the proposed amendment of Harbor Dog's license agreement with respect to, I believe it's a beer and wine sales. Insert, Audrey, do you want to give us a little background here?
Yes, so as you all know, because you were all involved in approving the Harbor Dogs license agreement, the most recent agreement. They have requested to be able to sell retail beer and wine. So that is the exact same license that like a convenience store would have, or French and Braun has. I'm trying to think of the other business here that Walgreens has. So it's that same license, which does not require approval from the select board. So you're all aware you don't get retail liquor licenses.
As far as the license goes.
The liquor license
That
only.
makes sense.
So it's closed containers like you would buy at a convenience store. That's what Jason will get is proposing to get a liquor license to allow him to do. And what he needs your permission from is to amend his license agreement to be on the public landing, running his business there. That would also enable him to sell alcohol with a retail license. So no one could consume it publicly because that's illegal. And there's no licensed area that anyone could consume there. So that would be not part of, it wouldn't be for consumption on the landing or in any other public place in town.
So he's selling 6-packs and wine.
Yes,
Some.
or that's what he would be proposing to do. And Jason's here if you have any questions from him.
Please.
And also, I just want to make the point, he is in compliance with his current license. He's,
I understand.
yes.
I'm hoping you're, that's a question. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jason Doppelt. I'm the owner operator of Harbor Dogs, and we're trying to get a retail license to focus on the sales to the day sailors and stuff like that, to facilitate catering some meals and stuff for them. Like, you know, people want to get champagne, lobster rolls, you know, do most of the morning stuff like that. I sell them the small bottle of champagne, take them on a boat ride with them. Or to a house with a whatever, and. Enjoy the beverage there, go home. So they even down our roof is. Borders. Yeah.
Question is board. Nobody. Good to confuse me. right?
No, it's not too confusing.
No,
It's,
no,
you know, I'm struggling with this one because I like to be able to say yes to things, and be supportive. I'm concerned about, it does feel to me like it will be confusing to people that when you're buying something at Harbor Dogs, it's so much, all of it is meant to be consumed right there. People are getting stuff and they're eating it right there. And to be buying alcohol right there, I understand that it would still be, you know, it's illegal for them to consume it there. I wouldn't want you to sell cigarettes there, for instance, because I guess, you know, I think it would add to it. It's a special thing, like it's sort of a really special privilege. I think that Harbor Dogs has being in that location, and it's difficult to figure out what the guidelines should be for the use of public space there, and we've gotten lots of proposals, and so I guess it's not that I would never say yes to it, but that at this point I would be uncomfortable expanding the sales to that area of items without having a better vision for all the different types of businesses that we want to let or not let into the harbor.
So
we don't have a say on the retail license. No. So once the retail license is approved, we can either remove his entire license, right? So what's the option? I'm trying to figure out, you approved the retail license? No.
The
Who approves it?
the
state.
The state.
Right.
Okay, so the state grants you a retail license. And you come to us and say, I have my retail license, I need to modify this agreement with the town.
Mhm.
So what are we doing at that point? We're telling Jason, well, good for you, retail license, but we're not gonna modify the agreement?
Yeah,
That's the option we're having?
well, that is an option for sure.
When
That is
I
an
can
option
walk
for
up to Walgreens, get my beer, come down to the landing, get my hot dog and sit on the bench and drink my beer there.
I know, but I don't buy hot dogs for immediate consumption at Walgreens.
You can also.
No,
I'd like to,
you can go at French, exactly.
I'd like to bring.
Yeah, I think. Stephanie's to the point, that she's just,
a gas station and buy a sandwich, you drink to your car, drive away with alcohol.
That's true.
so I think preventing you from selling those items is not gonna prevent people from drinking a beer or.
It's a similar situation to kind of the gas stations in Maritime. But yeah, you had a question. Tom.
So I see a difference here. Walgreens owns or rents, you know, something from a private entity. And that private entity presumably can set some restrictions on who or what they'd like to rent that space for, and the town can as well. So in this manner, I just don't think it's a good precedent, and I agree with Allison, it is a privilege, to be there. I like the idea of having that there, I think you do a great job running that establishment. But I'm not in favor of alcohol sales there. If people do want to buy alcohol, they can go to French and John or wherever else. That area down there is the public landing. And I see it as something that we have the right and the duty to, you know, promote things there that we see fit to promote.
I think the public landing is there for the public to enjoy it, and I'm just trying to facilitate their ability to get on their boats and do what they want, or get into their car and do what they want with their rights. And, you know, I'm just trying to make a little bit of money and.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because with the way things are going, like, everything is going down. It's just, you have to figure out how to innovate and come up with new revenue streams when you have such a small footprint to deal with. And this was a option that I had, that would be a high revenue for a small footprint. That would just help me be able to continue my operation of the business and to afford the staff that I need and to pay them the wage that they have to live in this local community that we have. Because we're have gone so high, and I have to either raise my prices or whatever, revenue streams. You people here,
Oh, this agreement is approved annually, correct?
5 years.
Every 5 years.
Okay. I just wanted to ask Randy if he had want to make any comments and Sure, Randy, yeah, he's reading, he's took himself off of mute.
Yeah, Bob, I think this is more of a policy decision for the board to make and vote their conscience on it. The state is going to allow cocktails to go from licensed establishments as well. So, there's a lot of changes that are happening out there. We don't have signs posted. The state of Maine, it's a crime to drink in public if you're within 200 feet of a posted sign, or if you've been told by a law enforcement officer that you've been seen with an open container in public. We usually get volunteer compliance when we approach people. There are visitors that come here from out of state where it is legal to, in a public place, to have it. So we always go with the education first prior to doing any enforcement. So I would yield back to the board voting their conscience on this as how they feel best that this should be taken care of.
Thanks, Randy. What was your first comment about changing regulations? I didn't quite get
The state is now continuing with the cocktails to go from licensed establishments that the governor put into place during the pandemic.
All those.
So somebody can walk into Fresh and order a cocktail and walk out?
As long as they ordered food also, right?
Right, and the cocktails have to be packaged in a certain way as well.
Sealed container.
But that's not what you're asking to do.
No, I'm sealed containers, yes.
So that's where I feel, I'm not quite informed enough to, it's
So-
possible that I'm getting this wrong because I don't understand it well enough, but.
So if you're getting food to go from a restaurant, you can get cocktails to go.
Mhm.
And they will be pre-portioned and packaged in a sealed container
Mhm.
that you can take out of the restaurant and consume where you like.
But that's not what you're asking to do. You're asking to operate as a retail
So
in more a way that French and Braun or Stop and Go or.
since they're both closed containers, it's kind of the same thing.
So somebody would be able to come though and just buy alcohol from you, for instance, whereas at
Yes.
Peter Ops, you have to be ordering food and you have to go through.
No, the exact
No.
answer to that, I would have to double check that and give you a 100% answer on that, because I haven't been pursuing that option. The option of pursuing this retail sales, so when it comes to adult use sales, recreational sales and stuff.
But you would be selling wine and beer.
Wine and beer is what I'm shooting for, yeah.
Right, so no hard liquor.
If that's what the town wants, then.
So cocktails tend to have a higher
No idea.
liquor content with
Licensed
sugar.
bartenders.
Oh, it's like, no, of course.
And in the back of the room, did you want to say something?
I'm just saying, yeah, you can go to
Yeah,
place,
yeah,
sit
yeah.
at the bar.
Otherwise, people can't hear you.
Sorry, you can go to
No,
the
it's not
bar.
here. I'm sorry, yeah, good exercise.
Yeah, you go to 16 Bayview, you can get drinks there, you can bring them down to the Harbor Club.
Bring them to the select board.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. As long as they're not being consumed in public and they're.
Bob.
Yes.
Bob, could I'd also like to mention, since we just had the Donut Festival over in Rockport, that event was visited by 4 state liquor inspectors because there was a catering permit. And liquor enforcement, who had gone away from the law enforcement part, has now brought on some inspectors. So we're going to start seeing a lot more activity with our liquor inspectors for our licensed premises. They deal with administrative violations. So I have a feeling from the agents that I spoke with the other night and them telling me that there will be additional agents also coming into the field, that all of these places are going to start seeing more of the liquor enforcement administrative people on a regular basis. So anybody getting that license should be well prepared that they take those matters seriously, and they'll be around.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I work for one of the day sailors. This is my third year that I work for them. My name is Jessica Wheeler. Worked with him, or not worked with him, but seen him every day during the summer. He does a great job. I think what he's proposing is a fantastic idea. I have customers who ask, like, where can I get drinks? They're about to get on the boat, and it would be great if I can say, you know what, you can grab 6-pack beer, you can grab 1 beer, some wine, right from him and take it down the boat. It's true, you can go to any bar, you can go right to Blaze, you don't have to order food, you can go to the bar and ask for a drink to go. I would rather send them to Jason and get his beer there.
Rather give money to Jason and to Walker.
That's just it.
Thank you. One more hand I saw. Stuart.
Now I can hear Stuart.
I apologize for talking.
It's really hard for me. You have to also to remember that although I'm a good English speaker, it's not my native language. And so I make an extra effort to listen to all of you. So that's why I always pick on people who speak at the same time.
Sure. My name is Stuart Smith. I'm very much against modifying this lease to allow liquor to be sold or alcoholic drinks to be sold there. We have tenants already that we lease to year round, and they pay a lot more rent than what's being paid for this spot, which is a prime spot. If you look at the history of this facility was a hot dog stand. It sold hot dogs, cheeseburgers, and cheap grilled cheese sandwiches, and once in a while it sold crab rolls. It has changed dramatically over the years. It's become a full-on menu, competing with all the restaurants that are down there. You allow the alcohol sales, changes it to a real restaurant. So if people need to have a drink and go out on the boats, they walk 100 yards up the street like they've been doing forever, and they buy their alcohol to go at French Park. So that's not a need that we have there. So the other thing that bothers me is if you've been down there lately, there is a trailer parked behind this hot dog stand. It's twice the size of the hot dog stand. He has outside coolers on both sides, but he doesn't have enough storage. So Audrey has given him 2 weeks to move the trailer out and get the smaller storage back in there. His comment was, I don't have enough room for storage. So he doesn't have enough room for storage already. Where is he going to store 6 packs of beer, cases of beer, bottles of wine? So that's not what this license was about originally. And I hope the next time it comes up for renewal in 5 years, it will be put out to bid for anybody to bid on this. And I think that should be a public policy. There's no reason that someone should have a corner on the market down here. So I'm very much against it. My tenants are all against it. And my hotel people do not like seeing this big blue trail down there. And I hope it's going to be gone. You said it was. Thank you.
Please.
So I guess I think he is not dealing with the other. He is in compliance with his license agreement. This is not about that.
Okay.
This is about whether you want to modify it for the sale of alcohol or not.
So he's not in violation.
He is not in violation of his license agreement. He is in compliance.
So there's no Jeremy's there's
He's agreed to move that trailer to be a good neighbor to everyone, but he has no requirement that he needs to.
Is there any established footprint limit for harbor dogs?
No, there's not.
So he can just keep getting bigger and bigger without any change.
1 second. Jeremy, go ahead.
No, he can't just keep getting bigger and bigger. If you go back to the agreement, this is an agreement that's been in place for a long time. And that agreement hasn't changed. The agreement never included a footprint or an area delineated. It was based on what the town manager, as I recall, the select board authorized the town manager to work out the agreement. And so we're not going to let him just creep and creep and creep. If you go down there today, Stuart, when Jason bought this building, and I'm sure you've been down there, when he bought this business, the footprint actually is come out maybe 6 inches from where it was when he purchased it. And that was just a few years ago, right? And he's gone a little 6 inches into the lot a little bit, 6 inches in that whole facility. We're working with him on the trailer. He is in compliance with his agreement, and he's committed, and we're committed to kind of delineating moving forward the meets and bounds. So Jason knows what his responsibilities are, and we're going to get there. But he is not in violation of any agreement that we has with the town. We have looked at it. He's well within the town property. I know there's been talk that he's on your property. He is well within town property. And we've looked at that on the surveys. We have that information available. We're working with him. And again, this is just straight up just to allow retail of like 6-packs and bottles of wine. I will say the discussion about mixed drinks to go that Randy brought up is very different, right? Those are from licensed establishments that are bars in essence, right? This is not a bar. This is in essence, a small little retail operation. The mixed drinks to go, all those establishments come to the select board annually because they need an annual license from the state for a liquor license, right? That's a different liquor license than Jason is asking for here. So those establishments, again, like Long Grain, they don't do booze, but Fresh or one of your facilities, Stuart, I mean, people could get drinks to go if that's what the restaurants wanted to do. And that the town doesn't have any say in that or not, because that's a right that they get under their license agreement with their licenses with the state. That's not something that the select board gets into. So there is no possibility that Jason can offer mixed drinks to go. I think what Jason was trying to say was that the same comparison is that they're sealed. But Jason's are sealed actually in the factory, right? They're screw tops or a cork or a can opener or a bottle opener. So it is very different. And I know there's been a lot of information sent to the select board. I just wanted to comment that he's in compliance. You can't drink open container anywhere. We know that. Everyone knows that for the most part. And I think Randy's folks are going to do a probably better job, or at least look down there in the state. I heard about the issue down in Rockport this weekend. And that was a licensed facility from Camden, actually, that did that. And they have a catering license and a liquor license that they can use off their premises. This is nothing like that at all. I'm just pointing that out. I wanted to make some clarification because I know there's a lot of emails that went around to the select board today.
Yeah, there was violations issued at the Donut Festival, but to that entity because of a violation of their liquor license.
I don't really know about that at all. My point here is we have people paying very good rent, a lot more rent than being paid by the hot dog stands for selling products so they can pay their rent, they can pay the real estate taxes. I don't think it's fair to French and Braun to open up something at the waterfront on town-owned property that French and Braun's real estate taxes are going to support. And he's only paying $2,500 rent for that space. You're getting 3 parking spaces. You're taking up 3 parking spaces down there. There's no question about that. I don't care what Jeremy said. You go down and look at it, that's what it's taking up.
My point is,
Jeremy, the storage building he's got behind the hot dog stand is bigger than the hot dog stand. And it never had anything like that before. So don't tell me
understood.
compliance.
Let's get back to the core. Did you want to
Yes, I actually have pictures of the hot dog stand set up by the previous owner, and then I have pictures of it set up today. And if you could look at the parking lots in the parking lot, if they haven't changed over the past couple of years, you can actually tell that I am in the same footprint. I can show you those pictures if you want.
No, I trust you. Go ahead, Tom.
We're off topic here, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah, well, Jeremy, I'm gonna object to you saying a comment, something about what Jason was trying to say. I mean, where you stand on this is very clear, but I would suggest, you speak for yourself, not for someone else. I want to reiterate the point here that the town owns this property. This is different than any other properties that we've been comparing it to. And in that regard, you know, we, as the select board for Camden, have this opportunity and this duty to decide what it is that we want to promote and have on town property. And that's why I don't think this is a good idea.
That's why I thought it was general.
Don't we look at all the snowball?
We have all sorts of.
We do,
We do town property.
town property, and we have alcohol, there's no ball.
And Jason's.
And we had a
And
lengthy
Jason's-
conversation about it, you know, and some of us didn't.
And some people were very
Like it.
against.
And so that's he's the only vendor at the Snowball.
That's
And
correct.
he's not competing with any downtown merchants.
Right.
There's a huge difference between being at the Snowball and being the only person out there selling it. And saying to French and Bronx, well, you don't have to go up the hill anymore to buy your alcohol to go on the day sale at French and Bronx. Now you can buy it here at the hot dog stand. So to me, that's a huge difference. You've thrown a competition in, you're not paying a fair market value for the rent. And you're letting him have he needs to have a bigger storage area.
No, but that's off topic.
That's not off.
It is.
I'm not gonna allow it to take here.
In compliance with it.
Please finish, Stuart. We got to move on. Thank you. I don't have a raging debate about that minutia. But Audra, to the extent of the agreement, it's a 5-year agreement, as you said, it goes to 27, I believe. It is an option to, if the board wanted to do a 1-year only trial of this piece of.
Absolutely.
I just want to clarify that with the board, because oftentimes, some of these things I get confused, honestly. I'm same as you are, Alice. I get mixed emotions about it because I don't want.
I believe that when the decision was made to allow for the sale of alcohol at the Snowball, it was done on a trial basis.
That's correct. That's what I heard. That's why I mentioned it. I presume that was an option if the board wants to consider it or not. But other comments?
I'd like to get to a point where I can say yes, the competition aspect of it doesn't bother me, I suppose is the way you could say it, but it's the competition for town space that I'm having trouble justifying, because we get proposals all the time. It took like a year to get on the agenda, this proposal for a nonprofit organization to do what they wanted to do, for the same reason I wasn't ready to say yes to Mark's Lobster Shack proposal. It isn't, we don't have a fair way of allocating town space. We haven't even, I think that as a select board, we need to look at what the boundaries of that town property are. We need to look at the agreement that we have with the Chamber of Commerce, with the private parking that's behind those buildings. And we need to be looking at, okay, where is the space that's available for commercial entities? And what's the process that we're gonna go through? I've been able to, I love Harbor Docks. I want to be open more. I go there with my kids. I also get approached all the time from people that question its fairness and the way that the fact that it's there at all. And the way that I am able to justify that at this point is I say that it's something that is popular with the community and it's been there like that for a very long time. And sometimes if you just throw everything open to an RFP all the time, you end up with things that are, might be unexpected and something that's working and didn't seem like it should be messed with too much. But when that starts to expand, it's harder for me to justify that argument of, well, we know that this model works. So I might get to a point where I can say yes, but it's not today.
I think, please understand that, we've wrestled too long with the landing in that area for, mentioned lobsters and solid lobsters and a popcorn stand and all great ideas about it. But it's collectively, I think, I could take part of the blame for not being able to define better what's allowed down there and not. And so that's the only partner I have no problem with the idea of pushing years trying to sell through your operation. It's being consistent to the public and to the people we've said no to. And that's what complicates it in my mind. It's a very subtle difference. I'm not concerned. I don't believe that a town should get involved in discussing competition amongst suppliers. Sorry, if you want to compete, reduce your price. If you want to compete, that's what everybody does in business. But I think the issue of, you know, what's been the history of this in prior boards on matters of has clearly shunned everything in terms of these potential uses. You know, the popcorn stand for the lobster thing, and other people would like to do the same thing. So, you know, increasing the business of target dogs at this point. That's the only challenge I have in my mind. That's the only.
And right now, due to restrictions that have been placed on me that are beyond my control, I am trying to make up for lost revenue that I am seeing. I'm seeing a dramatic drop in revenue, and especially towards the tail end of last year and now this year. Just a huge drop in revenue, and I'm just really trying to figure out how to compensate, because I'm just not seeing the same amount of foot traffic through the harbor as there once was.
It's a volume question. Volume of people question.
I just trying to figure out, just trying to be ingenuitive here, and just trying to figure out how I can take a margin dense product and fit it into my business model. Yes.
Maybe t-shirts.
They are not a margin dense.
Anyway, for board, we have to move on this matter. Do I have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion that, well, my motion will be that we do not accept the request to extend the retail liquor license as part of the licensee.
It's just a
That we do not
don't
amend
modify the agreement.
the agreement for the liquor
And
license.
there's no license involved.
We
So
don't
it's just-
accept or not.
We just,
Well, we
you're
would be-
rejecting the change to the agreement. Period.
Okay, we would be adding it into the agreement, so I was
Correct.
just saying that
Correct.
we are not going to be adding it into the agreement.
Perfect.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for discussion. All's in favor? Oh, no, sorry, I'm getting myself confused about that. Opposed?
I am opposed. I'm like virulently opposed, actually.
4-1. Sorry, I suspect you keep it on the table, don't let it die.
Try it next year.
Well, I think I will, beyond my tenure, the board will consider, it has to consider what the landing is about and how to make it more.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a discussion with you guys and figure out a way to make this happen.
Yeah.
I'm down with working with the town. I've enjoyed working with you guys in previous ventures.
Yeah.
I think we have come to great agreements. And I
Yeah.
think we can definitely figure out something that'll work. If it's just not even, if I just making retail sales directly to the boats, or have like pre-orders or starting words. Because I can't, because with the way that we set up, it wouldn't even be out in the parking lot, because the laws would have to be keeping everything.
You should just create a new LLC that they can hire you to go to Hanford to pick up something, and then the revenue and the profits are all in your pocket.
Yeah, so there's logistics to that.
Yeah, there is, there's
There
lots of.
absolutely-
Yeah.
Anyway, when one door closes, another one opens, so, you know, I'm trying to understand, that's where we are right now.
No, I completely understand. I'm just figuring out everything we try, you guys can maybe say yes or no.
Okay.
So next year I will be trying to do that, and see what happens then.
Thank you, look forward to seeing you at the landing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. With that, I want to move on to the appointment of, I get this right, of Conservation Commission members. It's just one position, is that correct? Two, excuse me. And we had a number of people who have applied.
So this was really just, this was a request from the Conservation Commission to correct an error, really. David Kibbe, who, we actually didn't realize this until we saw it in the town report here. and we believe that it had been voted on and changed. David Kibbe came to maybe a meeting and said it wasn't gonna work for him. And since then, Brian Lightbody has been participating as a member. We don't generally
In
have.
his stead.
Yes, and it's, I believe that we had already voted on it. It appears that that hasn't happened. We could go through and try to appoint a second member right now. I think that we should leave that spot open. There's,
Would you be running one short on the commission?
well, Brian Robinson, is still, he feels that he doesn't quite have enough time, but that he does still participate a little bit. It's not a crisis if the Conservation Commission is one short. Other people come to the meetings who are not members. Samantha Sharp, waiting to hear back from her as to whether this meeting time would work for her. She's a great candidate, so to speak, but we just reached out to her after asking that this be on the agenda so that we could correct the David Kibbe error. It was discovered that there's an additional vacancy, and so that's why it got put on like this. And with all of those in the packet, we've reached out to Samantha to see if this is something that will work for her now that there's Zoom participation also. This is, I don't know if you want to hear all of this
No, I
stuff.
guess the question is, we got one resignation. We have one resignation, correct? We have one
I don't
resignation.
think we should fill two spots right now because there's gonna be a new select board, and Ray is one of the people up for consideration, for example. If I don't get on, I might want to be on the Conservation Commission. Anyway, I just think right now, the Conservation Commission hasn't had a chance to discuss this. They just wanted to correct the error of the David Kibbe versus Brian Lightbody situation.
I see.
You want to put a second person on there too right now.
So would we be just approving Brian Lightbody formally because he hasn't been formally approved yet? Is that?
Sounds
Yes.
like, sounds like
That's your
David.
suggestion?
David
That's my
Kibbe.
suggestion. Waiting for a definite yes from Samantha Sharp, who I would then recommend. Because she has been the longest waiting member on there, but
Recommending we table this.
I'm recommending we approve Brian Lightbody today and we table the second committee appointment until after the election.
All right.
I second. Was it a motion?
No, she didn't. but it's kind
I move that we approve Brian Lightbody to take the place of David Kibbe on the Conservation Commission, and that we table the second appointment until after the election.
Second.
Discussion board. All in favor? I see 5 hands. Thank you, 5-0. Thank you very much. On to our item F, which is the one that I remember is the personnel policy amendment regarding paid parental leave. Audra?
Yes, so in your memo, I sort of laid this out. We're having a HR main consulting do a comprehensive review of the personnel policy. However, that wasn't ready for me to bring to you to this meeting, and I'm really motivated to get the paid parental leave provision amended in the personnel policy. We have an employee who will be involving that pretty soon. So that's why I'm bringing that to you ahead of the entire personnel policy recommended revision. So what it would allow for is 6 weeks of paid parental leave. So anyone can take 12 weeks, that's protected under the Family Medical Leave Act, but this would offer 6 of those being paid.
12 weeks for
12 weeks
is
is
it
leave.
maternal leave only?
No, it's parental.
Parental.
So you
Come on, Bob.
I was trying to.
Welcome to 2023, Bob.
California's a lot more. But anyway,
Yeah, this is a starting place and,
Yeah.
you know, this is something that,
Still below international standards.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is something that it's currently in front of the state
Yeah,
legislature
right.
for, they're calling it family leave on the state level.
That's what I thought.
So it's very likely that this is something that, you know, we're going to be having a discussion about in the future. However, it's pretty commonplace now for most municipalities to offer some portion of paid parental leave, and we currently do not.
What's the?
We don't even have that very antiquated maternity leave.
That's what, I was confusing with maternity.
Yeah,
They use FMLA, correct?
yes,
Do we
yeah.
have a short-term disability policy
Mhm.
that we use here?
It all kind of just falls under FMLA right now.
So right now,
Which is nothing paid, just being allowed to use sick time.
You use your existing leave.
what are other towns using in terms of the portion that's paid?
6,
Pretty common.
yes.
So if you have, right now, if you're having to use existing time, that's like, if you have a baby, you better not get sick, kind of a situation.
You take your vacation,
Or
your sick
vacation,
days,
yeah.
your paid time off, your
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
To make up for that.
So I do have a few things to say on this.
Please.
So I am not opposed to having this pushed through. I would like to table it until we do get the full HR report. For a few reasons, because there is the LD in the state legislature.
Yeah.
I haven't read that. It's like a 400 and something page document. I actually do read those things. I just haven't had a chance to. So they may actually be offering more that we could do and should do. And I'd rather make a one-time change on this instead of keep making changes throughout. I'd also like to wait for the HR report because I know that there's gonna be things that are gonna be changed, and piecemealing it. I would like to do a more comprehensive change. If the employee right now ends up going into labor and needing this, we can always backdate it, whatever that word is, it just went out of my head. Retroactive that, and make it so that it works, if that is what the board decides. But I also think that it's probably something that should probably wait till the next board comes in. This is a pretty significant change, and we already have had pretty significant pay scales, and it's just, everybody is in such an uproar right now. I'd rather have the HR report. I know it's gonna be in there. Absolutely, it's going to be in there. I'd like to see it, and I would just like to table it for now and then pass it when we have a little bit more meat on the bones.
When is that HR report scheduled? Getting any idea? We're talking weeks and months.
July.
Oh, it's
July.
close. It's close.
The memo says June 16th.
She'll be done with her report.
Yeah, she'll be done with her review by June 16th, so it'll be, yeah.
Even if it's July or August, it might make sense to make it later a little bit.
Is there any reason why we couldn't have it at our next meeting?
Well,
I
give it a little
don't
more
think you're gonna have
time, more
to
time
do
than
that.
that.
Should be done with a review, but
Yeah.
it takes time to write a report.
Yeah.
Well, no, she'll have written everything.
Oh, she'll-
by then, But there are just other things that need to be done.
Right.
It seems wise to me to move it off to the board. These are long reaching decisions, and I don't feel comfortable putting it in now.
And I mean, it's gonna be in the HR
Oh,
report.
no
It's
question about it.
gonna be,
There's no
I
question
can't
about it.
imagine that anybody's gonna sit here.
No, I'm gonna tell you now.
It
It's the
is.
thing, she literally pulled out the section because I asked her to.
Oh.
Because I really wanted to cover an employee who's going to be going out on parental leave.
Wow.
I mean, it does feel like we are a small town, and sometimes the idea is looking at our personnel policies so that we can be competitive and fair, and so if you're asking about a specific employee, it makes more sense now to hear, because I too was sort of looking at this wondering, okay, we're gonna get this great report about our personnel policy and what we should be doing, but we're gonna make this one change before we get that report. struck me as odd, and I was prepared to say that, yeah, let's just table this until we can get some expert advice. Are there any mechanisms for, without getting too
No,
personal, for making something better?
I don't have
It
anything
has to be.
other than like hoping,
Right, but what she just asked is,
right,
we could retroactive it if she goes out tomorrow. However, everybody has had to operate in this fiscal year under the old policy. The new fiscal year starts.
sure, I had a baby in
Oh,
this
right,
fiscal year
right,
under
yeah.
the old policy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So it's
Oops.
not changing anything to the detriment. As of right now, I understand this one employee. However, there's been multiple people that have had to operate under the old policy. I'm saying it's gonna take probably 4 weeks to be able to get it. If at that point, the new board wants to retroactive it, I think at that time would be the best time to make that decision.
If the employee would take the time, no matter what, it would just be a question of whether it was paid.
Right.
Or not. That makes sense to me.
Even if it's later than 1st of July, if it's mid-July or early August, it'd be okay to retroactive. I think. Any disagreement with that?
I really support adding it into the policy.
Me too.
I also know that it's not, this is well beyond my scope of expertise. I'm not, what's normal and all of that, so.
This is very normal in the nation. It's remains a little slow getting at it, in my opinion. But I think Stephanie's idea of retroactivity makes a lot of sense to make sure we cover anybody that gets caught in the first one.
Is 6 weeks the most typical thing, or is it like 2,
6
4?
paid.
six is average.
And you can change it. but
I haven't seen anything. I looked at other policies around and I haven't seen anything less than 6.
Oh, really?
So just so you all know, HR main consulting, they only do municipalities. So that's why I got them to review our policy. So nothing that will be proposed in the review is outside of what is typical of the municipality.
And you expect that in July?
I think it'll be ready to come before the board in July at the soonest.
Could the consultant just pull that part out of it and say?
That's what I'm
That's what
giving
she-
you.
That's what she did.
That's what she did. That's what
Consultant actually wrote that?
Yes.
Yes.
I missed that part.
That's what Audra explained. She pulled
I
that.
understand that Audra explained that, I just
Missed it.
missed the actual wording from the consultant saying that we should act on this separately.
I think the only difference is the retroactivity things we can cover somebody if the board future board will look at that in July for consideration, I think as well. There's not much, there's no doubt this is what it's gonna be.
I move that we table this until our first July select board meeting.
If you want to specify a date, it's up to you, but I would just
No,
make it.
please don't.
No, don't do that.
Please don't.
Make it, proposed date certain in June, July.
I move that we table this to a proposed date in July.
Right.
Be determined.
Perfect.
How's that?
Motion made, second, the discussion, all's in favor? Thank you very much. By the way, I want to go back to an item I ran right over because I mean notes or mess. And that's the approvable revocable license with Reeves for paving a driveway on Central Street.
Yes, so you're all familiar with revocable license agreements. We're doing work in the right of way at this point. So this is a property that's currently, or not, it's a property on Main Street, and what they're proposing is they have a gravel entrance on Central Street for the Main Street property. And they would like to just pave that area that's currently gravel. And this is just giving them permission to do that because it's in the right of way.
So the only thing that when I was reading this, I was very confused about why oh my goodness, the Camden Farmers Market would want to park way up there.
Oh, I think that was used as a template and
That is a really interesting.
it was really funny.
You can pay
Just caught that, and still the version in your packet has the farmer's market in it. It's unbelievable.
I was like, why?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it's really great. I'm not opposed to letting the farmer's market park there. But it just seemed like a really long way to carry your tomatoes.
Other comments, board?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the paving as submitted.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
No, I oppose. I don't want to see more pavement. I like gravel.
Okay, 4, I stand corrected, 4-1.
Thank you.
The last action and we have is the authorization to pay the balance of the lease purchase agreement for Knox Mill and Knowlton Street parking lots. Background on that.
Yes, so in December of 2018, the town had a special town meeting to authorize entering into a lease with an option to purchase agreement for the Knox Mill parking lot and the Knowlton Street lot, which is currently the skate park. And what was approved by voters stipulated that the purchase price payments would be $5,000 over a month for 174 consecutive payments. So absolutely have the option of buying it out early, and I'm advising you to do so because we just had a situation where that property changed hands and there was some difficulty with the transfer of that agreement. This is a 15-year period. People forget things. We have the funds to do this because the value of the TIF district has increased and is generating quite a bit of revenue. So, we have the ability to pay out the balance of that agreement. So I'm recommending that you do so, and we'll own it outright. And, we can all sort of move forward with subdividing the mill parking lot from the bigger lot and any plans that we have for it.
So how many years into this and what's the balance to pay?
So the current balance on the agreement is $560,000. So we made, I'm sorry, Jerry sent this all to me. We've made 4 years worth of payments.
That's right.
Yeah.
Audrey, what is the significant benefit of paying this off early? As I read it, it's $870,000, whether we buy it now or whether we buy it in 10 years. And I'm assuming the dollar is going to be worth more now than it is in like 10.5 years. So what's the significant benefit of buying it now?
I would say that it is really easy for people to forget that these are agreements are in place, especially if property changes hands. Like if it's not the same owner that it currently is, like I just went through quite a thing when that property was sold. And I don't want to go through it again. I don't want anyone sitting in any of these seats to forget about it and for that to come and go. So I just think that having it behind us so that we don't put the town in that position is a wise thing to do.
Well, why this and not firming up the legality of the agreement? Or is the agreement, the first question, I guess, is the agreement on shaky?
No, it's recorded in the registry of deeds. It's fine. It's more about, we've got a situation now where we can do this. Everybody understands it. Everybody's in agreement on it. We're not setting up anybody in the future for litigation with an agreement, which it just
happens all
it's because everyone's becoming more and more litigious. So I feel like when everyone's in good standing now, getting this behind us, owning it free and clear is just a smart thing for us to do.
Well, that's moving with the presumption that we want to own it, of course.
Well, people voted that they did.
They didn't vote to own it.
They did.
Yeah, we did.
Lease purchase.
Yeah, lease.
And the whole discussion at that point was because it was the wisdom of that whole lease purchase thing in some ways, because what we were doing was like owner financing.
Right, we couldn't
Which is
buy
a
it.
little sketchy. And so it was explaining, it was because of the revenue in the TIF district.
Yeah.
That owner financing situation made sense. And I remember we had, there was a special town meeting and people voted on that and a few other things.
It is a purchase one.
So we do need, we own it after 14.5 years,
Yeah.
regardless
Yes.
of what we decide.
You
Yeah,
can finish
so-
paying the lease, you own it.
Yeah.
It'll be already paid 4 years worth.
I like that deal better than paying the cash now. When it's the same amount of cash.
I strongly caution against waiting.
Yeah,
I
would agree.
I was very uncomfortable with the way that the transfer of that property happened, and I do not want to put the town in that position
Yeah,
again.
it was, I was more engaged in it than some of you, because being here a lot, it was extremely difficult heading for potential litigation. It was that extreme, but,
Because of the war.
because of the long story, but, if it doesn't hurt us financially to do so, and we have enough funds to do it, I think it'd be crazy to go on, but no, you're right about, 10 years, the present value of money is different, depending on the excavation rate, of course. But, this situation, you can suck that up very quickly with, if another situation should occur with signed agreements. Other comments? Let me
It
just
does
take-
hurt us.
let me take some other comments, so I'll come back to you.
What's
Stephanie?
the balance of the TIF fund?
So the current balance of that fund is, $461,000, 367. The revenue will be around 550,000 this year, and we committed to using about 320,000. So we have plenty of money to pay the balance.
So you have a net sitting on that, put them 750,000 net after the commitments and the income. So this would suck up about 2/3 of that.
I mean, but that's kind of a moot point. We can use that TIF money for other things. We should be,
But
rather than saying.
I just think you'd be putting everyone in the future in a potentially risky situation not to pay it off. After what we went through just recently, I really strongly advise that you just pay it off and we move forward.
Other comments, board members?
I just didn't see this as a very controversial thing before when we talked about doing it. It's not an idea I cooked up, but it seemed to be the result of a lot of town planning in the past, and it made sense to do it. And I do agree that having to talk about it as a lease status is complicated, but the finance part of it, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm a guru.
I think in my, what people have been talking to me about has just been the finance part of it. So it's gonna benefit the person that owns the lot greatly to get that huge sum of money handed to them now instead of over the span of 10 years. That is a huge benefit to them. That is people's concerns. I'm not 100% sure why that is a concern, but just throwing that out there. And the TIF funds, there's multiple things that are in the agreement that it can be spent for. So they are worried that should we need to spend a TIF fund on those things, the funding may not be there because we've rushed forward and paid off this parking lot. So that's kind of where I'm just kind of, it sounds like a really great deal and a great idea to do. I am worried what other things could we come up? I mean, we're pretty, people say, well, we're at Camden, we can afford whatever we want, but in the end, is that true? If something was to happen and we needed to use the TIF funds.
I would say that nobody ever counted on us having as much revenue in the TIF or that it being as lucrative as it is now.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started, it made no money almost. It was, we're talking like less than tens of thousands of dollars a year. And then we did the 2017 reval and it went from generating a few tens of thousands to, I think it was like $145,000 a year. And we were all very excited by that. And we were able to enter into this, lease purchase agreement to eventually own these parking lots. And, we were all sort of carrying on with that TIF district generating about that much. And it was after the reval that was done 21, that it started to generate over, $500,000 a year. So I don't think any, yes, there were things that were outlined that money could have been spent on from the TIF district, but nobody ever anticipated that it would generate the revenue that it does today. We've committed to doing this. The voters voted on it and approved it. They approved the lease purchase agreement because that's what we could afford to do at the time, over time, instead of bonding it out. It was a better solution because we could use TIF funds. I'm telling you that it was a bad situation for the town to be in where people can forget about these things. And I think it's been surprising how many things have been forgotten over the years. So I would not like to put that, I'm trying to do the responsible thing for the town by settling this now and paying it so that nobody in the future is in a position where this is forgotten and
Or somebody tries to sell the property
Yes.
and pretend to the potential buyer that the parking lot comes with it. And that's,
I just,
and that.
we have an
we've been there.
opportunity,
Yeah.
we've got the funds available to
And-
future-proof ourselves and do it now and move forward with a bunch of things that I don't really feel comfortable doing when we're not the owner outright. Like, I wouldn't recommend to anyone to spend money, significant money paving that lot when we don't own it. And it's at a point now where it's kind of close to needing to be resurfaced. So
I can see you feel strongly about it. I appreciate that. I'm just a little, the precedent here is we're worried about litigious actions. But we can expand that to any number of agreements that the town's up in under, in my opinion. We see an opportunity or we know that there's one particular owner who doesn't like this agreement anywhere here or there. And, are we gonna let them twist our arms into paying them, almost $500,000 now rather than over the course of 10 years? Just because they don't like that agreement and we're a little bit fearful of where they could go.
there's no arm twisting going on. I'm doing this because I think it's the most responsible thing to do, given past experiences. Given where we're at with the lot and the condition that it's in and the investment that we need to think of making in it. So it's not because I feel like our arms are being twisted. I feel like we're being proactive.
They're not asking us to pay the balance.
I understand. So, and you brought up another point, the paving of the lot, is that incumbent upon the town? Or
Yes.
Typically
Yes, it's a lease purchase agreement. It's
So we're
different.
responsible for all maintenance rather than.
The triple net.
Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that fear should drive this decision. And that's the feeling that I'm getting right now.
Okay.
One thing to the other. I think that also if we were to own it, if the town were to ever want to do something different with those properties, so the whole point has been parking, is to try to solve the town's parking problems as part of the comprehensive plan and all kinds of things. If there were to be a time, for example, when one of these other parking lots became available and the townspeople wanted to vote to say, we would like to own the parking lot across from the Jack, for instance, or something like that, instead of this Knox Mill parking lot. That would be, if we owned it, then we have the ability. It seems like just like there's more flexibility. I'm not saying that is gonna happen, but if the needs of the town change, then owning that real estate gives us the flexibility, I would think, for people to be able to make a different choice.
Other comments?
No, and I think, I mean, the way I see it, the TIF is gonna continue on producing the same level of money, so there's not a revenue issue here. It's not, we're not trying to spend a one-shot deal amount that we have. We'll have this amount again next year. The way I look at it is paying off this property is actually freeing up more TIF money in the future for bigger projects, not putting us in a situation where we have to do a lease purchase agreement because we don't have enough cash on hand to do those projects. So I think it's it is not a financially risky proposal.
And can I tell you all the truth? I don't even need to ask your permission.
No,
to
you can do
this.
it without us,
But
right?
it's a big sum of money, so I feel like it's important that the select board weighs in on this decision, because the town people have given.
Also grant funding, I think in order to use any grant funding for any parking lots, if
Yeah.
there was a project, we would have to be the owner in some situations.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the recommendation from the town manager that we purchase the balance of the lease purchase agreement for the Knowlton Street parking lot, and the balance is $560,000 paid from the downtown TIF.
Second, are we gonna take comments?
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Wait, calm down, sit down, smile. Everything. No, I'm just kidding, sir. 1 second.
We should open one of your mouths.
Motion made and seconded. Any other comments from the board? And then we'll take some public comment next, Stuart. Let the Stuart talk first.
Has it been seconded?
Yeah, Allison seconded.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, yeah. Stuart.
They want it.
I fully support what Audra is saying, and I think it's a good idea. I would suggest you go into a
Executive session.
executive session and discuss what offer you might make to close this deal out with this person or the current owners. If I was negotiating to do this and they wanted to give them a lump sum today, it probably would not be a full amount.
Good suggestion.
For today's interest rate, they might like to get paid a little bit less.
Good point.
Good point, sir.
Thank you.
I'll modify my motion accordingly.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just a
Ray.
question. Yes, Audra, what is the amount of money that pours back into the TIF that we expect for next year?
550,000.
550,000 will be back in there about this time next year.
No,
Oh,
July, we're gonna get 500.
550,000 back in.
Yes.
So whatever, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
so that when I looked at the downtown TIF district and everything, the things that the money could be used for, there will be money in there to be used for more than just this park in the future.
Yeah,
Correct?
correct.
So I'm gonna modify my motion that the select board authorizes the town manager to liquidate to pay the balance.
Not to exceed.
Yes, not to exceed $560,000 funded by the downtown TIF fund.
We don't want to.
No, as a maximum, but that she can negotiate the balance.
Yeah,
Up
give her.
Give her some leeway.
Oh, I just thought the executive session thing was interesting, maybe.
We have to be the next one.
Mm.
You have to announce the executive session. Just can't do
Okay, can we
You said it passed the
it.
figure.
Can we second, can somebody second this motion so we can move on this topic?
Allison, you forget. Or not.
I'll be honest, I wasn't listening carefully enough.
Okay.
Maybe somebody else.
Please, that's okay.
I make a motion that we authorize the town manager to negotiate the balance of the lease purchase agreement for the Knowlton Street parking lot up to $560,000 financed by the TIF fund, not to exceed $560,000.
Kind of defeat the purpose.
Okay, you went through that second.
It just feels a little like it's a purpose defeating motion when we authorize up to the total
Well, I think-
amount. But this is not, I would rather the rest of you decide honestly, and I'm supportive of the goal.
So you-
Yes, I support this, I'm seconding. I will.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion board.
I will say that that's a very difficult negotiation position to be in.
Yeah, good luck. I don't know. Ray,
Just one quick little thing.
Sure.
I believe Sophie just said in Knowlton Street one, it's gotta be 2 parking lots, right?
Oh,
Both on
I
Knowlton.
think it
Yeah.
should be half the same.
Thank you, Ray.
thank you, Ray.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
All right.
She.
She
Okay,
supported.
so it's 4-1 approval, and that will end our action items for the evening, and we'll move on to the management reports.
All right, so we kind of talked about this a little, but I thought it would be good to show everyone
Why Zoom, Fritz?
because I'm Fritzing.
So I'm not technically savvy.
If you go onto the town's website
Yeah,
and you go under. If you go under the Cook River updates,
yeah,
so in this area, and I'm gonna try to figure out a better way to show this.
navigate.
If you're interested in what we talked about with the lake levels and the tool that Dave St. Laurent
Yep.
found and started to enter the daily logbook in. Hopefully have a good enough internet connection to show.
I think it's not, it's not, the bullets are coming out now. There's only one bullet, but at least you can show what it is.
Yes, so this is daily that the dam is checked and entered in this website. So yep, that is spelled it.
You got it.
It's frustrating because of the European,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the date is
Yeah.
the first, the month, the day, and then.
right,
But it
I'm so
has an
sorry.
electronic
yeah.
timestamp, which
Yes.
is.
Yes, in the other view,
Yes.
yes, I don't worry, I figured it out, I'm just
Yes,
saying,
yeah.
there's one view where I was looking at it with the kids, and they were like, what is going on?
Maybe in 2024,
What's
we
the
can anyway.
17th month of the, it's not that, it's just a little different, when you're working with kids that have learned how to write the date,
Right.
they haven't been
That's
exposed, my
what-
kids aren't world.
Maybe next year we'll get you convinced to use metric instead of imperial.
Right, that's part of the whole town Camden transition.
That's the
plan,
that's the
metric.
conspiracy.
Anyway, we'll get it.
Anyway,
Logical.
anybody who's interested in daily updates and pictures of water levels on Lake McGonagall at the east and west dams, as well as
Downstream.
downstream to Seabright. And I think,
The thing is that
Montgomery
Seabright
as
doesn't
well.
even get monitored behind it, which I never realized, there isn't a numeric gauge
Right.
behind the dam, it's only downstream.
Right.
Which is interesting too, but I mean, it's kind of crazy that we don't
Well,
measure
we
the
can
amount
pick one.
above or below the spillway at
You
Seabright.
think?
Just wait to make a motion for $10,000 more and you got it.
I think
Yeah.
actually, no, that's part of the.
That's part of the
Yeah,
that's part of
proposal.
it.
Yeah.
We did that already.
you
Or we
do,
can just go off of whatever
Well
it
done.
remembers
Well done.
from the last 20 years.
So Audrey, you got 3 dams covered on this?
well, 4, but yes, 3 locations.
Right, 3
So,
locations, yeah.
so that's one of the updates. And I don't have a good way of showing this, but MDOT sent an update about the Route 1 project. So,
Route 1 North.
yeah,
That's why the trees don't.
so I wish I had a better way of showing this because it sort of came.
We can describe it pretty easily.
Yeah, let's just.
Well, I mean, it's not very exciting. I think they're sending it out to everyone,
Right.
but they sent it to us to have a preview first, so.
Right,
It's just an update that they're going to begin the project, and they're saying later this year, they haven't really been more specific about that, and that it's scheduled to be finished by the end of summer of 2026. And they've sort of bullet pointed everything, so rehabilitating and reconstruction of 1.5 miles of Route 1 between the State Park entrance and the Lincolnville Town Line. Tree clearing to improve safety and visibility, replacing the Great Brook Bridge, replacing the Spring Brook Bridge. So that's sort of the scope of the project, and don't be surprised if you see MDOT doing the initial sort of surveying and
which they started.
marking work.
So it went out to bid and they awarded,
No,
no,
they're doing it in sections, in chunks, because they're having a problem with budget. So then I believe they're gonna bid the 2 bridges, right, Lincoln and Springbrook, and this year, bid it as a separate project. And then next year, about the same time, we're gonna bid the widening of the 1.5 miles.
And so my other update, so with the Pearl Street project, when so the connection into the manhole from the Oak Street
Yeah.
pipe, so where it
Yeah.
connects into Pearl Street.
Yeah,
There were some elevation issues, so they need to realign part of that pipe as it goes onto Oak Street. So that's been, you know, an unforeseen change to the project, as well as they ran into some ledge. And so there's notice going out to all the abutters as per our ordinance, because they're gonna have to blast ledge.
it's granite ledge.
Yes,
Not necessarily blast, sometimes it's hammering.
no, they have to send out the notice because they actually have to blast. They were hammering, but
Granite ledge. is not-
yeah, the hammering is just going to take them too long, so now they're gonna be blasting, so
They probably feel that you're ours.
That's,
I think, yeah, notice has gone out.
am I gonna get a notice?
Nope.
No, you're not, they're not removing enough that you're in the
In the blast.
broader area, yeah,
I can't.
And granite's a bear.
yeah.
So. The elevation situation. How much is that gonna cost? Is that like
It
it
is,
sounds
yeah,
like somebody made a mistake.
I don't know if it was somebody who made, I'm not exactly sure. I don't wanna talk about like who's to blame and for like a mistake. or
Okay,
not.
but it's
I'm very
significant enough that came to
uncomfortable.
you
Yes, yeah,
and you are telling us.
yes.
Is it gonna increase the total project cost?
We don't know at this point, because there, you know, there are things that are less expensive, sometimes
Oh, like maybe they found something that's gonna make it less expensive?
there have been some things that have made certain
Oh,
parts of it less
yeah.
expensive. But like ledge, you know, the finding ledge makes it more expensive.
That's not surprising though, at the top of that, over by the Legion Hall, I mean.
All right, you're right.
So we don't, yeah. We'll find out closer to when more of the project is finished.
Okay,
So those are Pearl Street updates,
okay, cool.
and those are my big ones.
Sounds good to me. Well,
Oh, there's more work, sorry, there's more work going on with EMS.
oh,
I don't want to get into too much detail with anyone but Stephanie at this point.
yep,
So at some
Okay,
point, I think
that's
it would be
fine.
good for us to meet and touch base about all that.
she's our liaison. Select board, Tom.
The planning board had a meeting last week. They approved the Nordhaven subdivision.
Oh, oh,
Just last week.
Yep.
Okay.
Thursday. They have another meeting on the 15th for short-term rentals, if you're interested. And the MIDC meets Thursday at 11,
okay,
which that is, if you want a link, I can get your link to that.
thanks, Allison.
The Historic Resources Committee is going to be having a table at Election Day to discuss with the community historic preservation ordinances and sort of along some lines of some of the stuff I've discussed before that they're working on, but they thought that would be a good opportunity to just talk to the community about ordinances and historic preservation and you know, some of the stuff that's in the comprehensive plan and get, you know, input as to what people are thinking about right now. So they're gonna do that. The Pathways Committee is working on updating their master plan for both Camden and Rockport. So that's like sidewalk survey stuff and coming up with their recommendations to the town of both Camden and Rockport. For which sidewalk should be the highest priority, or connector pathways should be the highest priority for either fixing or possibly for adding new ones and things like that. So anybody that has input on that, obviously, this is all stuff that would eventually come to the select board, but it's stuff that historically the Pathways Committee has come up with recommendations. And I do think it would be good if it were broadened out a little bit and try to get a little bit more people involved. Earlier, I attended a training workshop on community resilience. We're part of this community resilience partnership. And they had people at the Samoset yesterday from Camden. There are a bunch of towns in Knox County that are part of it, and basically just presenters mostly from the state talking about what, you know, what are other towns are doing for sea level rise, high water events, all that kind of stuff. So they have put out a guide, Parker Gassett from Maine Sea Grant has been working with a bunch of other agencies to put out this guide basically for best practices for communities. They did Courtney drop one off at the town office. There's currently a paper copy. They're gonna be distributing a digital version, but it's just basically an attempt to coalesce all of the different grant opportunities in the state, all the different things that the resources in the state for people that have shoreline property, for instance, and there's eroding, and they want to know, what should I do about my eroding shoreline? If I do it in this way, is there a grant? What ordinances or other municipalities enacting? So it kind of goes along with some of that here stuff, maybe with sea level rise adaptations, model ordinances. And that is it for commercial business.
So the only committee I worked on was the river committee, which was here this afternoon. And we had a presentation from the Save the Dam committee on their perception and their concerns about the dam. I think it was a really good presentation. It was very interesting, lots of information. We're going to have another one of the same format with Restore Megunticook River. And this summer, the River Advisory Committee is also going to be more visible, doing some community events. Like we had a table, they had a table, so I wasn't there. They had a table at the farmers market and at the Seafair, and basically they're ready to start engaging more with the community and have discussions and walk along the river and visit the dams and understand all those issues we're talking about: flooding, fish passages, being good stewards of the river, etc. So that's the only committee I've been working with since the last board meeting.
Thank you. Stephanie.
I have none.
I'm just gonna remind everybody that next Tuesday, tonight is election night, so if you haven't already voted, please vote. Number of great candidates running, 5 of them running for select board, 3 for school board, and a bunch of warrants that grabbing a lot of attention in our town. So please, most importantly, exercise your franchise. FYI to Audra's information about MDOT, a lot of us residents along Route 1 North have seen the initial surveying that's being done, has been done now as we speak, and you will notice if you drive that stretch, there are a number of trees that are marked with red and blue stickies, and just so everybody understands, those trees that they have marked are all marked for demolition per their construction drawings, which they actually completed a couple of years ago. So it's nothing new effectively, but it is new when you first see them marked. It's different than looking at a plan for most people who can't read plans. But I certainly spend enough time in those plans to recognize that they are. It's when you widen the road, it's intrusive.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things we discussed as a select board for a long time. Is there a place for people that want to refresh their memory that they can see the plans?
Well, MDOT certainly has them on.
Right.
But
Maybe the town could.
I don't think we ever put the plans on the town website, did we, Arthur?
It's a very large document, but we could
It's
link,
huge. It's huge.
link to their.
It's huge, and it's, well, for most people, it's a little difficult to read. Civil drawings are the worst.
Yeah, but still, we could link.
That's fine.
She does a good job putting their.
If we can do it, that's fine, but
I wanted to add something when you spoke about voting earlier, if I may. Don't remove signs. Don't remove signs. I mean, some people have told me that their signs had been removed from public spaces. And so I'm just encouraging everybody, it's okay to have different opinions, as you can see here. Every other week, we all have very different opinions. But please do not remove people's signs. Be respectful. No.
But if you see one blowing around, you could
fix it.
grab
Also.
it and
Exactly.
because sometimes it's not on purpose what people are doing.
well, no, I know on the corner of a mountain and one, they did remove all the signs there because they were replanting the flowers, but to my knowledge.
No, but they put them back, but not all of, not all of them.
No, they did not put them back. I don't know where they are.
No, I saw them there today.
They're over, put on the side, and some of us went and
Put them back.
found them and put them back.
Oh, I thought they had put them
This
back.
exact thing, the same thing happened last year when they did the gardening there, so understand. that's what it was.
I run.
Can I ask one question
Yeah.
about the signs?
Yes.
Is it a state ordinance or a town ordinance that signs should not be placed within 250 feet of the voting establishment?
And we have.
We need to have people go out there and
Get them.
You also can't
figure
have your
that out.
signs closer than, they need to be 50 feet apart.
Right, so those signs that.
Your sign, like, your signs need to be 50 feet apart from each other.
Yeah.
On public
Ray
space.
Anderson sign
Right.
needs to be
Only
50
Ray's, only
feet.
yours.
For
Ray.
No,
another
Chris Nolan's
brand.
Chris Nolan signs have to be 50 feet apart,
Right.
not his from
What
yours.
if all the candidates agree that?
Do you see what I'm saying?
No, you
So long.
can't
So
do like
big
sign, sign.
And who's in charge of enforcing that? How many violations have we?
But my point is that there are
Expand.
signs that are very close to the public safety
And
building
you are correct.
that should be
Must be.
removed.
Must be.
Well, they
And
will be on election.
Election day.
Yeah, but 30 days, it's 30 days
It's-
before election day.
yeah, it's 30 days before. Yeah, I think it is. So where,
They'll be burned in the state of election day.
yeah.
One last reminder, I apologize. There is a workshop with the planning board June 28th.
Yeah.
So if you forgot that,
That's
Put it
true,
back
and we need
in.
to work on the agenda, but no, good call.
absolutely.
Because we have a few things that need to make it to the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make that to adjourn.
I think Bob should second for the last time.
Oh, hell, yeah, I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
All's in favor of adjourning? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
We can stay within the time limit.
Yeah.
And honor Stephanie's. Where do you find the sign? Tremendous contribution to the board.
No, I would have